Polly Wally Sling Slang, Screwy Dibbly Doo, Wing Wong Ping Pong King Kong, Cheech and Chong, Hop Hip Kaja Goo Goo, Hickory Dickory Slickery Flip Flap Dip Skip to my Lou, Flim Flam Wham Lam Sam Bam Cunningham Wax Snack Coochie Coochie Coo. Plus you gotta dip, you gotta doodle, you gotta eat Grandma's strudel. She stayed up all night to make it from scratch. You gotta gish, you gotta gash, you gotta wax Grandma's mustache. And lay out her socks to make sure they match. Whoa, you gotta help out your grandma.
I'm here to tell you that your whole life can change in a moment. And this is that moment. And this is the word.
Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 2 of season 3 of the Word Podcast. I'm your host, Steve.
What's happening, everybody? You guys didn't think it was going to come fast enough, huh? But here we are. Season 3 is upon us. Today, ladies and gentlemen, we talk Angelville. How's everybody doing? Let me see. Yep, as usual, you smell good and look good. Let's do this.
They do smell good.
Don't they though? I smell like cinnamon.
Really smell good.
I smell, someone's got patchouli on, so fuck you. But other than that, everyone else is good.
Here's the thing, man. Look, all you awesome congregation, all of you, I know y'all are pumped on today because we already did episode 1, kind of gave you the background of what's happening since season 2. But man, oh man, oh man, before we start, if you don't mind, Dan.
Yes, sir.
In your opinion, first scene out of the gate, did they hit the ground running for you?
Oh, for sure. I loved it, man. I'm ready to do this. But you know what?
Be ready.
Really quick before we start, and if you don't let me cut you off or anything like that. But I do have to fact check myself, sir. I have a mistake. I made a mistake.
What?
You know? Hey, I said we were warming up on the last one, but I'm just calling myself out because I didn't even know that I said this until I was editing it. But I just want to clarify one thing, okay? Just because I know what's up, guys, and I know someone picked up on it, I want to let you know right now that yes, what I mentioned was that we're starting up right now, and as you guys know, Cass is not really feeling Jesse anymore. And I said that the reason that he was mad at him was because he wouldn't use the word to bring her back. But that's not entirely true because, and I went off on this whole thing about how, well, he couldn't because, he didn't have his soul and blah, blah, blah. But that's not it at all. Jesse would not let Cassidy turn Tulip. So that's why he was pissed off. So it's been bothering me for a couple of weeks. I know it's probably like the most minor thing ever, but just wanted to let you guys know. I heard myself slap myself in the face. Let's move on. Let's get past it. Why bring up old shit?
You were right, though, dog.
What do you mean? I wasn't. I really wasn't.
How weren't you?
Because I went off on this whole thing that Cass was mad at Jesse because he couldn't use the word, or he wouldn't use the word.
But
In other words, his understanding was, oh, you're just not going to use it. But that's not the case at all. What really happened was that Cass was trying to get Jesse to let him turn her. Jesse wouldn't do it, so she died. That's why he was mad.
I feel you.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm just fact checking.
No, you're right. You tidying up some stuff.
Sometimes you got to tidy some stuff up. Is all I'm saying. It's time to move forward.
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, we begin. Oh, and you get to hear Dan does what he does so well, which is breakdowns week to freaking week. Dan, the mic is yours.
I'm not quite ready yet, man. I'm not ready to do this.
Oh, I thought you were ready.
And I mean, I was trying to talk to the people a little bit, loosen up a little bit. Okay,
I thought we did that. My bad.
Hey, I'm cracking my audio knuckles right now, man. Is all I'm doing.
Okay, my bad.
Loosening up.
I'm always juiced. I'm
just trying to let that, that sphincter relax a little bit before I start to flow the way that I normally do. There's lots of sphincters in the body, Steve. You just went to a dirty place. That's all I'm saying.
Wait a minute. Are there for real?
They're for real, but I'm not going to get into it because we will tend to be tangential.
we will do a Heroes of Noise for an hour about what?
We really will.
Blew my mind.
I will break down all the sphincters of the body.
Holy cow!
But I must admit, what? Honestly, It was that sphincter I was talking about.
Okay,
So.
just making sure. He's gross, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you. I appreciate that. What a friend you are. All right, guys. How are you? Are you ready? Are you ready to do this? I think people have been waiting a long time for this. Just do the little bit of... All right, let's break this shit down.
I can't wait, G. I can't wait.
Hey, a couple things that we should talk about real quick. If you guys want to go ahead, I'm going to go and do all the contact information at the end. All right, I will do that at the end. But talk to us a little bit, guys. I'll just say that. All I'll say is, we had a voicemail line. And I can't get it to work for some reason. So right now the voicemail line is not working. But if you do want to reach out to the show, talk about what you saw in this episode, ask us some questions, you can hit us up at Hero. Ooh, I almost did it, buddy. I almost gave him the other one. Guys, we have another podcast called Heroes of Noise. And I'm so used to saying that whole spiel that I almost messed up. But askthewordpodcast@gmail.com is what I'm getting at, ladies and gentlemen. Hit us up. If you got comments, questions, anything about this week's show, let us know. And we'll address it on the next one. All right. I think I'm good now, man. Is there any preacher news or anything that we have to cover before we get into this here?
Other than Ruth Nega is everything? No.
Wow. I really wish that I could take that. I could take that soundbite and then compare it to, like, season 1 soundbite.
Oh, for real. Seriously.
Right? She's growing on you like fungus, right?
Oh, dude.
I love her. I really do.
Oh, dude.
I know. Someone's like, it's not Tulip because she's not blonde and... What is this fucking shit?
I never said that. Here's
not
what
you.
I said.
Not you. You would never say that. You would never say the F and S word. But I'm just saying, someone's saying it. Like, I think someone's still holding on to the dream that somehow she will miraculously become a blonde woman, and But that's not the case. I'm fully on board with Preacher now. It could, because it is what it is.
Oh, for sure. They nailed. Even though Tulip's way different, I love Tulip. They nailed her, and they nailed the Saint, killed the Saint, and they nailed the uncles and the cousins, and I'll leave it there.
We're gonna have to use proper names now, Steve.
Oh, do I have to?
You have to, because we do a show about Preacher. I'm just saying.
You're right. So we're gonna go.
You can't be saying shit like, "I loved it when that guy did." You got to be calling out names.
No, you're
we
right.
have to come correct and professional.
They nailed Jody. They killed. They killed Jody. I'm okay, dude. We're gonna go through the run through, and I'm gonna tell you why this episode is so important to me when we get to the part. Like, the more I thought about it, the more this certain scene really was just like, oh, this just made, for me, it really was like, oh, they found their groove in this first episode. They found their groove. But I'll wait till we get there and I'll let you know.
Fair enough. Are you ready to do this, sir?
Let's go!
What enthusiasm. Do you hear that, ladies and gentlemen? That's something that you don't normally hear from the Hudson. But it's here. Nonetheless, it's here. So, I give to you this week's breakdown, Season 3, Episode 1, Angelville, directed by Michael Slovis, written by Sam Catlin, Seth Rogen, and Evan Goldberg, which I don't think that's going to be the case for this whole season, but this one was. I'm ready to do this, Steve. Are you ready to do it?
Let's do it.
All right, let's break it down. All right, guys, we open up with a black and white shot. We're in some type of a parlor, okay? I'm not going to get to whose parlor we're at yet, but we open up, we're in this parlor, and this dude's doing like the funky chicken or something like that. He's getting his groove on. He's all spastic and shit. Yeah. And, as if he's in a trance. There's all these like various voodoo supplies around. We got books and tools and equipment, and it's all displayed on the shelves, and there's like a damn snake slithering around. If you've been watching the show, we know where they're going, right? We'll back up just a tiny second here, and just in case you're unaware, Tulip is dead. Okay, if you guys don't know that, then you probably should go back a few episodes. But Tulip is dead. We last left our trio. Two of them were very mad at each other, and they're driving to Angelville. They're going to Grandma's house. We're gonna know it's Grandma's house in just a few seconds here, but I'm telling you now, it's Grandma's house. So back to the parlor. We got the guy. He's slithering away and doing his thing, and you see this hand knock on the desk. It's like, and it immediately stops. And dude just like comes out of his trance, falls to the floor, as if the spell's been broken, Steve.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But is it a spell? I don't know yet, because we're in episode 1, so everybody just calm down a little bit. But, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Angelville plantation. Outside, got this group of tourists. They're being led across the grounds, and the guide's telling them that Thomas Jefferson described Angelville as a place that burrows into your heart and does not seem to leave. I believe it.
I totally believe it.
Yeah, as time goes on, it's going to make a lot more sense. And this is where we get our famous preacher flash. Bam! And it says years ago. Flashes across the screen. So back to this guy that was doing the funky chicken. The man was under a spell, all right? And he asked the woman who he's talking to, how am I going to know if this worked, you know? And she's like, she just pours him a glass of liquor real quick. Takes a drink, and dude instantly vomits. Just violently, dude, all over the floor. And, he thanks the woman, because I guess that's what he wanted exactly. So
we're assuming he was an alcoholic.
yes, that's the assumption, sir.
Yes.
That's exactly the assumption. So, she rings this little
Which
bell.
is genius. Which is freaking genius to me. That little thing right there, whoever came up with that idea was like, either they're going to get it or they won't, period. They're going to either get what we're trying to lay down or the viewer's just not going to get it. They have put that on our side now. They're like, we trust our viewers to understand what just happened.
I certainly hope so. But like they're going to tell you what it is eventually. But just out of curiosity, like if you were an alcoholic, would you go through lengths to do that? Would you
Yes.
go under a voodoo spell to lose your alcoholism?
Here's the thing. If I knew she was around, I would not struggle to do anything in my life because I could just go make voodoo do it.
You just go on down.
Why would I struggle for anything?
Go on down to Madame Langel's House of Spells and such?
Exactly. And if they're like, hey, I can't get Logic Pro to work, I'd be like, I'll just go over there and get all the knowledge of Logic Pro instead of learning anything. I'll just have it implanted in my brain. Why would I work for anything? So,
All
yeah.
right, bro, you're being
Totally.
silly. You think Madame Langell knows what's up with Logic Pro?
Her voodoo-ness does.
She just summons the
If she-
Logic Pro demons and figures it all out.
If she could get rid of alcoholism, definitely Logic Pro is a cakewalk.
Because they've been around, about the same amount of time.
Totally.
Oh, Hudson,
That
it's
was
going to be a
great
long one.
freaking scene. I loved that. I was like, man, the fact that they didn't say, by the way, I'm an alcoholic. Nope, they just said, we trust the viewer. You'll figure it out that he's an alcoholic and that now he's not.
I don't know if
loved it.
I don't know if you could relate to this, dude, but I'm pretty sure you won't be able to. But that whole dancey, like spastic thing he was doing looks very much like it could be in a Tool video. You probably don't know what I'm talking about, but someone out there knows, like, oh yeah. And it just so happens that it's a sober spell. So there's another Tool reference, everybody, going right like a plane, just right over Steve's head. But that's okay.
Do you think they meant to do that?
No. I just think that it reminded me of that.
It just reminded. Okay, well, I can't. No tangential conversations. Never mind. I was about to go into a Tool thing. I have
It's
a lot of
really
questions.
nothing like a Tool video. It just sort of reminded me of one, and we'll just.
I didn't
leave
know
it
you were a
at that.
Tool fan.
Oh yeah, but that's a whole other show.
Wow.
Yeah, I got a lot of words to say about them. But
Okay.
these guys are expecting us to go off on that. Take a turn.
they are.
It ain't
They are.
happening today, ladies and gentlemen, because I'm focused. I'm sharp.
But
as
I do
tack.
have a question for you.
What's up?
Did in the comic, I don't remember, did Grandma have a parlor? I thought she just had her house.
Yeah, like she just had her house. They never really showed her like this whole Angelville arc where, she's being like this plantation's open to the public, and that didn't exist in the comic,
Just
and that's
making
okay.
sure. I love this. I love this little, because for me to ask that means that they integrated it so well that I didn't know.
It's been a while since you read it, right?
Oh, for sure. But there's certain things that if it was so bad, I would know it wasn't in the comic. But this is so good that I'm like, was it there? Did they just take it out of the comic? But no, the fact that this whole thing they're about to do is perfectly integrated into the universe of Preacher.
Well said.
It's very much integrated. So yeah.
As much as it may bug some people, like I'm just fully on board now. It is what it is, and you know what? Let's just enjoy it. Why make yourself
Yes.
miserable the whole time, right? If you don't watch it, if you don't like it, then don't watch it. But
Totally.
if you're going to, then embrace it and just go.
Yeah, I'm not going to do an hour-long podcast over something I hate.
Well, unless something comes up that's really stupid on the show,
Oh yeah,
we got to
but
talk about that. That's what we do.
Here's what you can tell by my attitude now that this first episode I am ready.
Look at you.
And I'll
Dude
tell
smiling
you the
and
scene.
stuff.
I'll tell you the scene when it comes up, bro.
Okay.
I
All
can't
right.
wait, G.
All right, brother. So getting back to it, that's exactly what was going on. Is this man just had himself a sober spell, courtesy of Madame Langell. She rings the bell. Young woman comes in. She looks down on the floor. She sees the puke, and she's like, "It looks like it's another successful sober spell." She takes the man from the room, and this is where we get our first. It's very, very dim, but it's actually our first shot of Grandma Langell. And for the readers, you're going to notice right off the bat, Grandma's got hair. And I've got this theory I'm going to put out now. I said it on the last show on the pregame, but I think it's a wig. I'm really, really hoping it's a wig. I don't know if it's going to be, and if Grandma ends up having these beautiful black locks the whole time, then it is what it is. But I got this feeling that I don't think that Betty Buckley is going to go shave her head for this one here, but I do think that, there is such a thing as a bald cap, and I'm really hoping that Grandma comes with like 4 hairs on her head by the end of this. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I'm on the other side of that. I think that they're going to keep her hair.
It's very possible.
There.
Yeah,
Yes.
I would not be surprised one bit. So anyway, the young woman, we don't know who she is yet, guys, but she thanks the man. And she actually addresses him as councilman. So Grandma's working with like the political brass of the town. You know what I mean? She tells him to see himself out, and she enters this waiting room area. So now we understand, like, there's all these people. It's an actual waiting room, and there's tons of people that are waiting in this room. Like, this is a full-on business here. Like, this is well-known. Grandma Langel's known throughout New Orleans. And that Angelville is no joke. That she can do these things and produce spells that are actually successful. She goes to this elderly couple, and they've been waiting for a while. And she whispers them they're going to go get the libido spell. So that the little old lady still likes to get freaky, but the guy can't really. You can tell it too. He's just all like, "Hey, I can only eat oatmeal." You can just see. You can see he doesn't like. He just needs salt substitutes.
Yes.
He's probably got some Depends on. He's out of it. But, Grandma Langel's going to hook him up. I really wish I could have seen what happened. Like, it would have been neat to see that.
Fun.
Yeah, like, about half an hour in, we see him, like, getting down with his wife. But we don't do that, guys. I'm just going to let you know. But she tells him it's going to be a minute, and that Madame Langel will see them. So the woman heads into this. We still don't know, guys. We don't know who this woman is. Mm-hmm. She goes into the kitchen. And she's got this sandwich that she had actually grabbed off of Grandma's table. And she throws it in the trash, and she gets startled by this like raggedy dude. She turns around, and he's like, "I want it back. Help me." And she tells him, she can't. "I'm sorry, I can't do it." The man basically like yells at her, and he raises his hand. He's got some kind of like blunt object in his hand. But before he's able to do anything, he's struck from behind Steve. He falls to the ground.
Ooh, by who?
Well, we see this thin man in a wife beater tank top.
Uh-huh.
And he says something here. And, I never really heard how the person I'm about to speak of talked. But when he talked, it was perfect. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And he says, "Weeble wobble, but he do fall down," in a Cajun accent. And this woman addresses him as, "Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. It's TC. TC's here." What did you guys think of TC? Steve, what did you think of TC?
Look, TC was exactly the person I had in my brain. Like, I get how that act, like, I was like, perfect. Like, that was one where it's just, okay, he's kind of what they had in the comic, sort of. I'm like, okay, I get it. I think that it was like you said, the speech could have gone either way for me. But I thought, oh, this is really cool. We're seeing TC on screen. I thought they did a good job. Not gonna lie, dude. Look, if I was going to cast TC, he would have been in the same group as this guy. What about you?
Well, I just don't think that they could actually do, like I said before, I don't think they could do the TC that's in the comic. TC has, how do I say this? He's got interests in animals. Bestiality. I'm just going to say it. The man screws animals. And I don't think that's going to be the case this season.
No.
Maybe it will be. Preacher has surprised us before. But let's give some props to the actor that plays TC. His name's Colin Cunningham. And I think he is going to be amazing. He actually, we'll talk about it more as we get into it. But I really like that the personality that they've given him. He sounds like he's fairly smart. He gets into he does some interesting things, even though he has that backwoodsy look about him, Yes. But I think there's a lot to come from TC, so I'm very excited to see what they do with him, this character, this season.
As am I.
So, anyway, getting back to it. Yeah, we know it's TC now. She calls him TC. He apologizes, She tells him, first of all, like, to get this dude out of here because, she don't want anyone to see. He apologizes, and he calls her Miss Christina. Now, for the comic readers, if you know the name Christina Langel, you're going to know who that is, and that's basically Jesse's mom. Spoilers. She tells him that the house doesn't run on sorries, and to put the man back before anyone sees. She also tells him that Miss Marie's office needs a cleanup because I guess that's what he does. He's like the groundskeeper. Mm-hmm. He just does the chores that need to be done. Yep.
Mind you, the house doesn't run on sorries is a very preacher thing to say.
Oh, yeah.
It's a very Jesse quote. So I'm like, oh, that's Jesse.
It's a very, you can just tell that this place is it's got some order to it, and someone is doing all of the commands. You know what I mean? It's like It's not like everyone's a team. It's all being ran by somebody.
Yes. And so I was like, okay, I can see where Jesse got his sort of his little quips. I mean, I was like, I could hear Jesse saying that quote.
Yeah, as we get into it, I think that that's something that will pop up a lot more. I have a feeling that Jesse's learned a lot more. We're jumping ahead, but I think that Jesse's learned a lot more from Grandma, and that's going to show as the season goes on. You're right. He's probably going to say some of the same quips that she says and stuff like that. Yep. That's a really good point. So we move along. Christina has shuffled out the councilman now. She encounters this small little African-American boy and his mom. And the mom says that they look lost, and they're looking for the plantation tour, and that her son is afraid he's going to be sold off, Steve. I don't know what you thought about this scene. Christina stoops to his eye level and tells him not to worry, that he'll be fine as long as he stays near his mother. Like, I don't know what was happening.
Immediately.
Yeah.
You get the deuce up out of there.
You know what? Let's just go and look at all of the voodoo stuff in town. I don't think we need to be at the Langel's house right now.
No. I don't get why people go on visiting plantations now. I'm like, bro, why are we here? Like, why are we here, though?
I'm glad you said it because I was thinking it. Like, Bruh, is that really where you'd want to be? Like,
thank you. If I told my ancestors, hey, one day we're going to come here just to visit, they're like, no, you're not. Here's what I guarantee you. You will not do such things. You'd leave and stay left.
Word, like, I don't, it makes me wonder, and I'm not trying to be stupid, but seriously, like, it's, to me, it was kind of like the equivalent of, like, Jewish people visiting, like, Auschwitz.
Yes, I don't get it.
You know what I'm saying?
For the life of once I hear plantation, I know that it probably doesn't have to mean a certain thing, but plantation never sits well with me. But I loved how, right off the bat, it shows, hey, you need to it shows she has a heart. She's not like the rest of them. She's like, you need to stay with your mom.
Yeah, right.
Because that means what are they capable of doing? What are they capable? That leaves it to your imagination. What are they capable of doing? What has this family done before?
Exactly. We're just at the tip of the iceberg right now.
Yes.
We don't know anything. Yes. We're like the first minute and a half, 2 minutes into the show. So we know nothing so far.
Exactly.
And we truly don't because, again, comic, television show. Anything can happen at this point.
Anything can happen. And
it will, ladies and gentlemen. It absolutely will. So that's like a really quick scene. You know what I mean? It's just very quick. I thought it was funny. I liked it, actually.
Yes.
So we see Christina now in her bedroom, and she's like sitting with her back towards the door. Door opens behind her, and this large, hulking man enters the room. And he says that Miss Marie is requesting her presence. She tells him that she has a headache, Steve, and she will be down in just a bit. She has to have this man calm the hell down a little bit because she needs her personal time. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. The man officer, he wants some aspirin. She refuses it, of course, and she also addresses him as Jody. So now we have TC and Jody full-fledged into the show. I don't think I'm ready to not quite yet talk about Jody, only because, there's some great scenes that I like in this here that I think
that's what I'm saying. Right off the bat, I did not like Jody.
Oh, really?
Right off the bat, I said, this isn't Jody.
I was cool with it because, if we're comparing the comic, he was like a younger guy, a bigger guy.
Ripped.
This guy, ripped. But this guy's played by Jeremy Childs, who doesn't really look ripped to me. And I don't think he's as big as they're making him out to be on the show. But I'm going to let you know now. I'm really, kind of in love with the way he's playing Jody. So we'll see how it goes from there.
As it goes on, I'll tell you how my opinion started changing as the episode went.
I can't wait, man.
Hey, bruh. Again, right now on the show, I do not like Jody, and I'm disappointed. All right.
You're talking about in the timeline where we're at right now.
In this timeline, I am unhappy right now. Okay.
Not feeling it. Not feeling it whatsoever.
Not feeling it.
I want to see how this pans out.
Oh, yes.
So the man, like I said, he offers her some aspirin. Jody offers her some aspirin. And he notices that she's got something in her hand. She's kind of hiding something from it. And he asks what it is. Asked her a couple times, actually. And she just tells him to get the hell out. And he leaves, and he says that he's going to tell Miss Marie that she's going to be downstairs soon. Now we cut to Miss Marie. Now, they're calling her Miss Marie in this here. We'll soon learn that she is Grandma. They call her Madame Langell. She's got several different names, but any of those names are going to apply to this woman here. Betty Buckley. Betty Buckley included.
Okay.
They gave her a lot of names, Steve, and I was wondering how many they're going to give her. And to me, it seems like 8 is enough. Oh, I'm bringing it back again. Sorry. Let me just let you know something right now. I've got hold on, I'll tell you right now.
Mm-hmm.
I basically have about 10 pages of notes.
Oh my!
So I'm going to be as thorough as I can.
And here's the thing. So if you hear me letting Dan go, it means that there are certain things we just have to get through because I'm not going to comment on them too much because we got to get through a Stephen King novel today.
They're just notes. That's all. They're just notes. That's all they are. But I write a lot of
Pride and Prejudice.
Kinda on this one anyway.
All right.
I just wanted to make sure I was like fully prepared this time. Not saying shit like getting the information wrong. I think that's a good thing that we should do.
That's a wonderful thing. Of course, Dan has it written. Credits roll. The gaffer was Jonathan Buckley. Sound man was like, wow. I don't think we need to know that, bro. It was recorded on this lot.
Here's a fun fact: the floor was made of rich mahogany.
Exactly. And you know the construction workers on that? Great company. Like, wow, we're doing this today.
I'll spare no detail. So anyway, like I was saying, let me warm up here, man. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to, I want to bring a very thorough description to the people.
Done. Matter of fact, let me go to the notes real quick. I'm about to go to the notes.
What you been doing?
See me.
You just sitting there listening to me?
Yeah, I was looking at you, but I realized I have to read the notes. But I like watching. I got addicted to seeing you, and now I'm just gonna have to get off that.
Honestly, I think this might be a little bit better because I'm watching your responses on Skype, and I think it's jacking with me. So, cool. Let's just go to audio then. That'll work for me. That's fine.
Okay, there
you can
go.
still look at this. What do you call it? What do you call a face?
Punum.
A punum. You can still see this punum. I just won't see yours.
Oh, that's funny. All right, go for it.
All right. So the next shot, guys, is it's a nighttime shot, and there's a lot of people that are just sort of standing around. It looks like they're waiting for something. As the camera pans around, we see that it's this large group of people that have been evacuated. Not evacuated, but they've all exited this tour bus, except for one person, and that person would be Christine. So it looks like Christina actually tried to get away, but it isn't going to happen. So TC thanks everybody for their patience, tells them it's only going to be for a little bit. But inside the bus now, we see that Jody has in fact found Christina, and he's like walking very slowly towards her, like Michael Myers style,
Yeah.
She's like striking at him. She's hitting him a bunch of times, but it's doing nothing because this man's like a Hulk. And he just keeps pushing her back to the to the very end of the bus. And she tells him, "I'm not going back." She strikes him like really hard, and nothing happens. But he like pushes her down, and he pushes her into the seat. And this is where it starts to get brutal. Jody knocks the shit out of this poor woman so hard that her face hits the window and just breaks the window completely. That was a really like vicious shot. Did that affect you at all? Not affect you, but like ooh.
I was like, "Jeez, Louise!"
Like ruthless.
Yes, and I was like, "Why isn't anyone doing anything?"
Because
he must be known.
Exactly, they know who they're messing with. I have a feeling that the Langels have a lot of pull in the town. Probably because of all of the political people that they've helped. It's almost like buying out the cops. The mob is buying out the cops.
Yes. But even, and the thing is, if someone does do something and they do kill Jody, what are the repercussions of that act?
I really hope we find out.
What does Grandma do? You know what I'm saying? Like, who knows what actually happened? So I can see why the people on the bus are like, there is nothing that comes good out of us helping this person except the fact that we're helping a victim. And so they kind of just all sat there and watched. And it sucked because I hate seeing her hit like that, but it also showed what kind of power Jody has. Like, right. He's a strong dude.
Physical power is what you're saying.
Yes, he is physically strong, which this may be, like, even though I still hated him even more, I didn't hate him because of the character. The character is now making, I'm like, okay, wait, so he's not just a big, chubby dude. He's a strong person. So where are they going with this character? What's he all about? So it perked my ears up like, okay, what's up with this cat?
You mentioned his strength, and there's something that's going to come up in a little bit that tells me that they're definitely going a different direction with him. They're taking an arc they've created something that wasn't in the book, and I'm not entirely sure that I find it like unpleasant. I think it could actually be really cool depending on how they use it. Mm-hmm. I think it's going to be a big season for Jeremy Childs. I really hope that the TC and Jody both are going to be on the show quite a bit.
Oh yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Getting back to it, ladies and gents, they've brought Christina back to the Langell, the Angelville plantation, and she's basically telling Grandma they're back in her parlor again. There's a lot that goes on, and I'm calling it a parlor. I don't know if you can call it an office, whatever, but that's what I see it as, like a parlor. Christine is just telling Grandma that, which if you haven't, do they know this yet? I feel like I don't want to say things that are like more comic related and let people figure it out. But most of you, I think, if you know the story, know who Christina is and who Miss Langell, Grandma is to her, and it ain't Grandma. So go with that for now until we like. I just don't want to do too many spoilers just yet. Okay.
Yes.
So she tells her, like, look, I was just trying to go to a movie. There ain't no law against movie seeing, right? Last I checked. Miss Marie tells her that Jody mentioned that she was hiding something from her. So that's why, A, you tried to escape. And I think we'll find out more about that later. But, B, you're hiding something from me. And Grandma's not having that whatsoever. I think I'm just going to call her Grandma because the whole Miss Langell thing to me is very foreign. I've always known her as Grandma since 1995. It's very hard for me to say that. I'll do my best. You'll probably hear me go back and forth between Grandma and Miss Langell. Or Madame Langell, whatever. There's just too many goddamn names, folks.
Yes,
I don't know what to tell you.
Totally.
So, she says that she was hiding something from her, and she denies it. She's like, Jody's a liar. I don't have anything. And she's immediately told that Grandma tells Jody and TC just to go ahead and search her. And, she probably could have done this a little bit, like, more sly, but she did. And she grabs something out of her pocket. She puts it in her mouth, she chews it, and swallows it real quick. Grandma asks what that was, and she's like, wouldn't you like to know, you crazy bitch? And Miss Langell, not feeling it at all, tells her, yeah, matter of fact, I would. And you see her, like, they show her with a scalpel. And I'm like, oh, snap. Like, it's going to get brutal right now. And it does. It does, Steve. So Christine, now I can tell you, Christine then calls her Mama. So Grandma, we know where this is. This is Jesse's mom, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm really happy to tell you that. Let me be happy. Let me be the one to tell you that that's Jesse's mom.
Was.
Maybe. We never know. We never know. So, she's like, Mama, you wouldn't do that. You love me. And Grandma's ruthless and like, yeah, more than anything. And then she immediately has them hold her down. Mm-hmm. So, bro, she literally takes this scalpel, and I'm assuming this is where it's coming from. That's probably had to be her stomach that they were getting into. And she takes this scalpel, no anesthetic, nothing like that. That's not how Grandma plays. Cuts this, whatever it is, out of her stomach. I'm calling it her stomach. And she discovers that it's actually a photo of a young Jesse, a baby Jesse, and his father. TC asks if they should, like, sew her up, because she is, in fact, cut open with a scalpel. And Grandma's like, nah, strap her to the machine. And boom, we got the intro. This is just the beginning. This was like the first 2 minutes of the show. So this is going to be a long show. What do you think so far? What did you think of that whole intro scene kicking into the intro? Were you fully on board at this point?
It's interesting because one thing that I did, I was on board. And one thing that really struck me about that scene we just talked about was how TC and Jody, they didn't seem like they were totally on board with what Grandma was going to do. They didn't like it. They went along with it.
Right.
But they were kind of just like, are we really going to do this? For real? They weren't like, yeah, let's do it. They kind of were like, shouldn't we? And she's like, no, we're just going to do it like this. You could tell that they were both like, wow, this is overboard even for you.
Yeah, but they've been trained to be complacent and do whatever
Bingo.
she says, right?
Yes.
So this is where, like, the actual AMC show has a chance to really stretch the story out and flesh it out. And because I'm dying to know their backstory. I want to know how they came to be with Grandma and, what they did or what she did to them that made them so complacent. This is a perfect opportunity. In fact, I'm going to say it right now. If it doesn't get addressed, it's a missed opportunity.
Well, and again, there's something... I guess we're going to wait till we get into it, but there are reasons I think they hate Jesse, and I think it's because of the direct relation, such a close relation to Grandma. That's what I think.
It's not a bad point.
You know what I'm saying? He's
yeah,
right,
totally.
And he just totally shrugs her off, and they're like, we are better to her, and you are literally her grandson, and you're not that person. But she still treated Jesse a certain way. And I think that Jody hated him for it.
And that could even fuel the fire a little bit more. Like, you're actually a grandson, Jesse.
You're the person, and we're doing what you should be doing. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. And we'll find out more about that, about what he should be doing as we go on.
For sure. But his mom is a rebel, and so is he. His mom didn't do what she was supposed to do either. Jesse's the same thing.
You got too much of your mama in you, Jesse. That's not a real line, but I want to talk.
But it is.
I got to figure out. I'm gonna have to get my Cajun accent down because I got a feeling we're gonna be hearing a lot of that. And so far, off to a bad start. So the intro, that was cool. They got a new intro. They always do every season.
Yes.
I'm still trying to figure out, since we're talking about the intro, how Hitler's going to fit back into this, but I guess we'll find out as the season goes on.
Yes.
Now, we are actually right back where season 2 ended, and here we are. We got Jesse and Cassie, and they're both driving, so it's right where we stopped. Tulip's dead body's in the back, and they enter the mansion really quickly, and Jesse calls out, "Grandma!" But they get no answer. Jesse tells Cassidy he doesn't know where anyone is, and he doesn't know what happened. They should all be there. And this is where Cassidy calls him out for letting Tulip die, which is why I wanted to correct myself. He basically didn't let her get turned into a vampire, so he's like, "You're a scumbag." So Jesse says that he loved her, he loved her. And yes. Cassidy says, "Yeah, you and me both." And Jesse says, "Yeah, she liked you too, Cassidy." Cassidy then gets into some fighting words, man. He says, "Yeah, she liked me so much that I shagged her." And I'm like, oh no, here we go. And those are fighting words in my book, man. And this huge fight, they get down right in Grandma's front room, right in the entryway. As Tulip's laying there, there's this great shot of Tulip. It's like a close-up of her, and you can see them in the background, and they're throwing down. And it's actually nice to see a rough Cassidy again.
And the problem is Cassidy didn't go Cassidy, though.
No, not yet. It's too early. They got to hold their things back.
The thing is, he that means he loves Jesse. That's all this means, is that he loves Jesse.
But according to Cassidy, he said that he hated him.
And it can't be true, because Cassidy could kill him.
We all say things that we don't mean sometimes.
Of course, because remember, Jesse doesn't have the word anymore. He is a normal, mortal human being. Technically, Cassidy could kill every single person except for Grandma. Cassidy could kill every person in that house, including Jody, without a second hesitation. He's just that immortally strong.
Do you think that they're going to make him stronger as the season goes along? Because, we talked about it on the pregame, but there were a lot of opportunities that they kind of missed. And, he was getting his ass kicked a lot. Technically last season, he could have taken out that whole night scene where the Grail comes in. He could have taken them all out like so quickly. So yes. Are they holding back? Is he not as strong as he is in the comic? What do you think?
I think so, because you can't have the Superman complex where he's never in trouble. Where it's like, well, worst case, he could just vamp out on him. You don't want to set that up, because then when a trouble does come and you don't want it to be that easy, you're going to be like, well, why don't you just do this? You're going to have to make a reason for him not to be able to do it. So they don't want that Superman complex happening where no matter what happens, you got Cassidy. So right now, you don't know, you haven't seen Cassidy like wig. But when he spazzes, people are going to be like, oh, wow, he could do that. And the fact that he hasn't done it to Jesse just means that as much as he says he hates him, he does. He loves him. Otherwise, he just kill him.
I was pleased to hear from Joseph Gilgan. They had like a little soundbite or something on Twitter, but he does say that he does get to be more Cassidy. There's a lot more fighting that he gets to do this season. So I think, and if you watch the trailer carefully, you may see some of that. He's
such a good Cassidy. It's just amazing.
It's amazing.
Cassidy.
It's amazing that Gilgan doesn't get more roles, and I have a feeling that that's all coming from him. I listened to a podcast, and oh god, it's the name. It's been a while since I've heard it, but it was like this real in-depth interview with him, and he doesn't do that a lot. And it was a British podcast, and if I can remember the name, I'll certainly say it because it's actually a very interesting read.
Oh, it's the Joseph Gilcast.
Nope, not that. Was there a Joseph Gilcast?
No.
Are you just making shit up? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm totally missing.
No, I can't remember it, but it was actually really good. But he, what I'm getting at is, I think he just chooses not to do a lot of big roles. I mean, he lives in like the forest. He lives like in the forest behind this bar, and he just kind of keeps to himself. I think his family owns the bar or something like that, and he just lives in like a little back room. He's a very he's not a high maintenance dude. Not a lot of flash in his life.
That's good.
Yeah, that's cool. So he's kind of like this hidden gem. So let's just keep him for us, man. I can deal with all the Cassidy that we can stand, So the fight is broken up by TC, who's like holding a shotgun at him. And he recognizes Jesse real quick. He's like, "Little Jesse." He calls out to Miss Marie with excitement. He's like, "Look what the cat cough up." Grandma wheels in on her wheelchair, and Jesse tells Grandma that he needs her help.
Yep.
Yeah, and Cassidy then realizes, he puts two and two together, and he realizes it's Jesse's grandma. And he's like, "Oh, that's your grandma. She's unattractive, isn't she?" And then he gets busted in the head with the butt of TC's shotgun. He's out. Jesse said he didn't know what else to do, so he thought instantly of Grandma, and he brought her to help. He brought Tulip to her, I should say, to help, with the situation. Maybe he can have grandma bring her back or something. I guess we're going to find out. But she leaves the room. She goes to the kitchen. She's like not having it. So we follow them into the kitchen, and this is where Jesse's like begging her to help. He says he's going to do anything. He offers to pay, and TC's there too, and he quotes him like, I think it's like $9,300,000 so they can get, basically back on their feet. So apparently it costs a lot of money for the Langell Angelville estate to run. Or maybe he just wanted $9,300,000. I don't know, because who doesn't, right? But Jesse like shoots a bunch of jars. He's like not having it. He shoots a bunch of jars or something that's on the back wall, and it explodes all over the place. And TC's like, oh, that's my swamp consomme. We'll get back to the consomme because it's gross. Grandma says she doesn't really need to help him. She doesn't need to help shit. Basically, it's because he left the family, and that's why she doesn't want to help. And Jesse again says he'll do anything. Grandma hands him this handkerchief. And this is important, guys. She says, you know what I want. Or maybe she's not worth it. But Jesse, of course, said he'd do anything, right? Like, he kind of painted himself into a corner, Steve. That's what I think. And so he says she is. And he immediately takes a knife and he slices his hand and starts dripping blood onto this handkerchief, which Grandma then takes back. It's going to come into play a little bit later. But that's the end of that scene. And now we start getting into another flash where it's like, bang, it says purgatory this time. This was kind of a weird scene.
Gee, this whole thing.
It was a weird scene, right?
I loved the episode. If there was one, I would have rather it been 30 or 42 minutes long without any of this.
Yeah, you know what? I'm going to have to agree with you. Like, I know that it served a purpose.
Yes.
But it was kind of campy. You know what I mean? It was very campy, actually.
It was almost to the point I could imagine the director shooting it, then afterwards being like, oh, I don't want to use any of that. But AMC... I mean, this is totally hypothetical, but AMC being like, or even the director saying, we spent so much money on shooting that, we have to use it. We can't just toss it. We just shot this whole massive thing. So I'm sure they tried to make it interesting, but it's stuff we did not need.
Yeah. I mean, I think that it was cool that they had her placed into a purgatory type setting.
Yes.
But it's just the way they went about it. So I guess that's really like our first critique of the show is this particular scene, which really in the big scheme of things, it's not a big deal, but it's like putting a brick wall on a road. Like it just sort of stopped for a second. You know what I mean? Like I shouldn't say it takes all you good people out, but it definitely took me out a little bit. And I had to really kind of make myself continue on with this show at this part, with this scene. And I'll get to it. So basically what we see is Tulip, and she's sitting in this big black room. It looks like all they did was they just turned the lights off in the studio, and it's basically all contrasty. It's a black room with white skeleton of a house and window frame. And Tulip's she's sitting there with a child actually, and basically it appears to be her younger self. The little kid's playing with a gun. The door opens. No, at first, let me just say this before I say this next line: is that before the door opens, I'm thinking, okay, well, let's see what they do with this. And then the door opens. And
dude,
I know. Okay, I'm glad you're with me on this here. Because, sometimes we'll disagree on things with this show, but in this case, I think we're like right on the money. At least together. We're on the same page. And the door opens up, and her dad walks in. And he's like really just like shot from a cannon. He's just a little too much for me, to be quite honest with you. And what made it worse is when he opens up the door, you hear like... like it's like a television show or something like that
for no reason.
Well, yeah, why not, right? Like why not do that?
Yes.
But he's just like, hey, Tulip, Daddy's home. It was just this really weird affect that he had. He was just a happy Southern man.
Yep.
And he tells her that he's happy, he's stoked because he got a job interview today. I could go into this a lot more, but I think there's so much more to this show that I'm going to kind of like gloss over this quickly. But he tells her that he got the interview. And it's like this, they like leave that scene together to more claps and applauses. So we're in the same room, but it's a different scene. And now we have Tulip and her dad, and they're like sitting at this job interview across from this man. And the employer mentions that you got a lot of felonies, and her father says that he's changed his ways. And the man tells him to go ahead and come on down to Mondays on a Tuesday. How clever! Her dad's like stoked. He's got the job.
Yep.
When he comes back, it's a whole other situation, because what we're led to believe is that, he's the guy that just can't seem to do right. And somehow he messed this all up, and he messed it up to the point where now he's running back in. He's got a gun in his hand, or he goes to the gun shelf, I believe. Off the top of my head, I'm pretty sure he just goes to the gun shelf, and he's telling her like, hey, shit's about to go down. This guy didn't listen to me. And, he's got trouble on his hands, and you can hear like sirens in the background and not. So what we're doing is, to me, it seems like Tulip's like reliving her past.
Yes.
in purgatory. Like her life's kind of like flashing by her, even though we just get this one, subpar scene. I got a feeling that I'm kind of mixing it up a little bit, even though I do have notes, but I just sort of like did this part really quickly. But during this scene, we also see that Tulip's mom, like she's back with her younger self again in this living room area. And Tulip's mom now enters, and everyone's going like, boo. What did you get out of this? Did you get the impression that she's like a prostitute?
I think that's what it was. Remember when Tulip knew the whorehouse? I thought it was because her mom.
Oh yeah, I completely forgot about that. I completely forgot about that cat house or whatever it was in season 1. That's right. Okay, well, thank you. But yeah, so they're reconfirming, if you didn't remember, like someone like myself, that yes, she was a prostitute. You can actually hear sex noises coming from the room. So her mom comes out. She says, "Hey, Daddy got a job, and he went to go get me some candy." And she tells her that she says that there's a better chance of her growing a third tit than her dad coming back with that candy, which is cold-blooded. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But she closes the door, tells her to keep it down, and you hear the boos and the hisses again. And Big Tulip, normal Tulip, our Tulip, Ruth Nega, calls her a bitch. Little Tulip puts her several bullets through she just starts capping into the doorway basically. And Mom's telling her like, keep it down. You hear the sex noises coming out. Now Dad returns. So to get us out of this scene a little bit faster, here's what goes down. I'm going to give you the Cliff's Notes, ladies and gentlemen, because there's a lot that goes on in this episode, and it's wonderful. It really is. But so what we've come to believe is that Tulip's dad just cannot do right. We're getting this flashback of her childhood. This whole gunfight ensues with the police. I'm guessing that maybe her dad got killed in a gunfight. Maybe this is how he died. That's what I was thinking anyway. But this is where Grandma's trying to do her thing. She's trying to resurrect Tulip. And she has her hand on Tulip's head, and she's like, "Oh, good, she's still in purgatory, so she's still got some fight left in her." Cassidy asks if she can bring her back, and explains that there's like this limited time window. She tells him, and like once that's up, she's going to be gone for good. So she gives them these instructions. Basically, she tells them that she's going to need some things, that were her favorite things in life, that they're going to surround her in death with, and to kind of hope maybe that it's going to help her like coax the spirit back to the living. Yes. And so she tells him, she sends him off to the store with several things. Cassidy's given this list of Tulip's favorite things that Jesse gives to her. By getting these items, that's what it's going to do. It's going to like draw her back from the dead. One of them, of course, is Booberry. Another one is a freaking Dragon Force CD. If you guys know who Dragon Force is, they're this British metal band, and it's kind of funny. There's this debate about whether Dragon Force is actually her favorite, and Cassidy's going she's more like a Joni Mitchell girl. Jesse's kind of annoyed by that. He's like, anything else you want to tell me about the girl I've known my entire life? And Cassidy responds with, yeah, if you don't save her, I'll kill you. At this point, I want to just point something out. This is another critique, but it's very minor, okay? And I want to see if you notice this, Steve. Because they're outside when this is going on. Have you noticed that Cassidy just seems to get more and more, like, sun resistant? Like, It's like he's got, like, the strongest sunblock on ever. Yes, he is still carrying around an umbrella with him. But and this is just my critique, but you'll notice this, that there are times when there's direct sunlight on his skin. Nothing's happening. Yet he still has the umbrella.
Yeah, just because in the first season, remember, he had to, or the second season, he had to dive under a car when sun was tangentially around him. He had to dive up under a car. So I'm like, okay, well, now he doesn't have to do that anymore, I guess.
I guess so, but I mean, if you go back to season 2 when he throws Denis out the window, it was like instant flames. Is that young vampire stuff, or I don't think so. I think it's just a matter of just like a bad shot. I
also think it's just it's way more it's like a convenient vampire where it's just like, well, he has rules that don't really apply to him. That's what it is. Let's move on. That's what they're doing.
They're asking people like myself to not pay that much attention and just enjoy the ride. That's all it is. Suspension of disbelief. That's really all it is.
Yep.
So Jesse tells Cassidy to go do his thing and grab these supplies. He tells him he's going to go and talk to Jody. And Cassidy's like, who's that? He tells him that's the guy that killed my father. So the next scene that we see, we've got Jody, and he's like looking fierce again. And there's nothing more fierce than watching someone descale an alligator. Like that. Got to be hard, right?
Yes.
I mean, did you see how thick? I know it was a fake alligator, but did you see how thick those scales were, man?
That was a mighty big gator.
That's vicious stuff right there. Jesse tells him that he needs transport. We'll understand what transport is in just a bit, but he needs transport for his girlfriend, and that they don't have a lot of time. So Jody walks up to him with his bloody knife, and he like gives him a hug, and he's like, "Little Jesse," he's like, what do you say? He says, "You can dress like your daddy all day, but you never look more like your mama," or he says something to that effect. But he tells him he's going to help him out. He's like, let's go take care of this. So what they're doing is they have to go to there's another madam in town. Her name's Madam Boyd. And, you know, it's like a rivalry thing. You got the Langels, you got the Boyds, and the two should never really meet. But they're out of this substance that they call transport. So they are forced to go and get some of this. And I don't think it's going to be an easy task, as we come to find out. So when they pull up, they're like immediately greeted by some thugs. And Jody she's got like her henchmen, thugs, whatever you want to call them. And Jody tells Jesse to stay in the car because the Boyds don't know. I guess Jesse has a reputation when he was younger and he was around with the Langels. He did a lot of the, he was essentially a third henchman.
Yes.
So he's got a reputation in town, and Jody tells him to stay in the truck because he doesn't really want them to know that he's back yet. He tells him just to chill in the car. He walks up to the thug, and he asks him for a favor, and he's denied immediately. And then this is where we start finding out what what Jody's all about. And he tells him, "What if I asked real nice?" And he's just like socking the shit out of this guy. You see blood just flying everywhere.
Yep.
He basically is like totally down with this. He like pumps his fist and he starts walking up and he just puts an ass whipping on this entire place. Mm-hmm. It's like a hotel, I'm guessing is what it is. And I'm not sure. I'm sure we'll find out who Madame Boyd is and where she stays and everything. But, you know, you see it's just a hotel. So I'm guessing that he just tears up anyone that's in there and tells Jesse to go around and wait around the side.
And the thing is, this is another situation with suspension of disbelief because we're supposed to believe that all those people with guns were taken out by this guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is totally fine with me.
Yeah.
Because they're showing, okay, this dude, Jody is a beast. And I'm like, okay, I now get it. I understand why y'all chose him. I get why they chose this looking guy. Because someone who was ripped, oddly enough, I don't know if I'd believe it. But this big old corn-fed dude, I'm like, you know what? He just might be able to do that.
Right.
He just got through gutting a freaking alligator. Maybe he can do this thing.
He's vicious.
Yes.
We've got Jesse, and he's waiting like around the corner now, you know, guys, as instructed.
Yeah.
And he's sitting there in his car, and all of a sudden he's like confronted by one of the thugs. It looked like it was the same guy that got his ass beat.
Yeah, it was the first dude, yeah.
But, you know, he bounces back really well. He pulls the gun up, and he says that, you know, he's like asking him who he is. He says, "I don't recognize you, but I recognize that truck." So you know it's about to go down. And at this point, you see this dude just fall and land on the truck. And this is where Jody actually jumps from the roof, and he saves him because he's about to get shot. Mm-hmm. Kicks the dude in the face. They take off, tells him to hit it, and they go back to Angelville. And he says something like, it's just like old times. So I'm hoping that we see some really awesome flashbacks because it sounds like Jesse was thugging big time back in the day.
For sure. We
arrive back in Grandma's parlor. And Tulip's now being stitched up by TC, who helps a lot. He's got these little goggles on. I think he's like Grandma's immediate surgeon kind of person, you know. Stitches her up, and he says something like "tied out in a hotel bed sheet," or he says something like that. And now Grandma's doing her thing, right? So she's gathering up the following items, and I really want to focus on this because it's pretty nasty. She's got like this little shot glass, if you will, to do her voodoo in. It's called a shot glass. She gathers the following items. She cuts some hair, like, you know, hair from her head. Some fingernail clippings, and the one that got me for some reason, man, even though like I'm sure her feet aren't really crusty, is they're just showing her like get the little dead cells from her heel, little dead skin cells from her heel, and then Grandma just basically throws it back into her mouth and crunches it up like it's like, you know, M&Ms or granola or something gross, like that. Too. It was pretty nasty. Even my wife was like, "Oh," when she saw that because it's just gross, man. And they're very like the sound effects there too. There's like crunch, crunch. It's disgusting.
That's so gross.
Voodoo's gross. So TC finishes, you know, stitching her up. Cassidy walks into the room, and TC apologizes for hitting him with the gun. And Cassidy basically tells him to, like, you know, F off. Cassidy starts talking to Grandma, who is like, you could tell that Grandma's smart, and she's hip to the way that their dynamics are already. Yes. She's already telling what's going on. I mean, I guess the first thing would be that she did it, you know, the first time she sees them, they're fist fighting in her house. So that's probably a very good clue. But she's having this conversation, and she's doing something that's kind of brilliant here, particularly because she's honed into the dynamics of the trio. She's just got a whole bowl of scorpion peppers around. Steve, have you ever had a scorpion pepper?
I have not had a scorpion pepper.
Okay, they're like really, really, really fucking hot. I've got
you had
of these
one?
Things. Yeah, I tried to grow some sometimes, but just to put it in perspective, and this is just to my taste, of course, I can eat some pretty spicy food. But the ones that I had, I actually bought at the store, and I was only able to put in, like, I think it was, so for like a big bowl of salsa that I made, I was only able to do like half of the scorpion pepper. That's how hot it is. Okay,
wow.
So I'm putting it into perspective for a reason. She chomps into the scorpion pepper, and she has Cassidy do the same thing. And she's saying that basically if you do this, the pain's going to help bring back the dead because they want to help ease the pain that you're feeling. That's the theory. She tells Cass this story for a very good reason, by the way. But she tells him this story about how when she was younger, there was a man that she really wanted his attention, his affection from, and he didn't, he didn't give it to her. So she cast this love spell, sprayed him with something, and at that point, that dude loved her more than anything in the world. Every day, 24/7, just to the point of just making her sick of him, you know what I mean? And to the point where she actually had to kill him to get him to stop loving her. She plants that seed for a reason.
Of course.
At the same time, Cassidy's trying to spit this damn pepper out, but she's not going to let him do it because again, she needs that. You need the pain. That's what she gave it to him for. She's not wasting peppers, Steve.
Of course not.
So anyway, she thanks Cass and tells him hey, listen, if you ever need a favor, just ask, because she knows what's up. So now she's planted the seed I can get a love potion is really what she's trying to say.
For sure, of course, which is smart.
She's the evil person in the show, and they're usually diabolical, right?
Yes, and it's so funny seeing Cassidy. At first, he chews it. He's like, okay. And it slowly starts being like, oh, my God. Oh, my God. See, when he first took a bite, I thought that since he was a vampire, it wasn't going to affect him. I was like, oh, and she's going to be like, oh, you must be special because this is not doing anything to you. But it immediately hit Cassidy. He's like, what am I doing? This is ridiculous.
And what made that scene even better is just how Joseph Gilgan, again, dude. His physical acting is good as the rest of him,
This was so good. Seeing him wanting to spit it out and her shutting his mouth and be like, nope, you got to hold it. He didn't swallow it, though. He was like, heck no.
The great Joe Gilgan, man. I can't wait to see what happens this season.
It's going to be good. But yeah, I love that. I love that scene. But also, real quick, to let y'all know, because it's going to come up, it's going to be an important thing, I think, going forward. It really kind of shined a light on Tulip. Her dad said, why can't I ever do anything right? And I'm like, oh, that's going to mean something.
Good pull. Thank you.
But the thing is, they could have just went to that. They could have just fast forwarded to that scene, and I would have been like, okay, she's in purgatory. That happened. Game over. But I think they did all that for that one thing. That's what I think.
I think you're right, actually.
But here's the thing. That's the only thing bad out of this whole episode, which is 3 minutes. But man, dude, I was screaming when Cassidy had this pepper in his mouth. It's not supposed to be funny. I don't think it's supposed to be played for funny, but Joseph Gilligan is playing it for laughs, in my opinion.
Absolutely. We now have Jody and Jesse. They've arrived back at Angelville, and, Jody tells them that they have some unfinished business, some catching up to do. And Jesse goes, well, let me have the transport. And Jody asks Jesse, basically what he's asking him is that he's not asking him anything. He's telling him that we're going to throw down right now.
We're going to wrestle.
We are going to get down. We're going to get busy. And Jody asks Jesse if he thinks he's finally able to beat him. So clearly they have this history of some severe beatings, and this is no different. So they have this brutal fight. And to the point where Jesse gets his ass kicked and he's lying on the ground. And this is what I was getting at earlier, is that Jody now, this version of Jody has superhuman strength.
No question.
Like literally superhuman strength. He's picking up this truck with one hand, and he's basically going to slide the entire truck over and basically drop it on Jesse's head.
He was going to kill Jesse.
He was going to kill him. Are we led to believe that he's just like an enraged guy that acts before he thinks? Because the repercussion, if you think about it, would have been pretty bad. Because, Grandma wants Jesse there.
I think he was fronting. He was going to scare Jesse.
Yeah, maybe so.
And also, I have a feeling, I think, and I don't know, but I think Grandma did something to give him that sort of strength.
More backstory. It's got to be in the backstory.
It has to be.
You're right, though, Steve, because
there's no way he's picking up a truck with one hand.
Right.
Just naturally.
Yeah.
Because if that's the case, that means we're living in an alternate universe.
Well, this definitely is, but I think that this is something that you're right. I think they're going to come back to it because it's so out of the ordinary. You just don't see that. You know what I mean? That they're going to have to touch on this again. If they don't,
of course,
another lost opportunity.
Yes.
But so this whole scuffle's broken up, and I think you are right now that you mention it. Now that we've said it out loud, I think he was just messing with her because he does in fact say I was just playing with her. She tells him to stop.
Playing.
Yeah.
And Jesse wasn't tripping. He was just like, oh, this dude.
Yeah.
Freaking
Jody.
Freaking Jody. I'm sure he did a lot of that when he was young, so he kind of knew.
But Jody does say, he's like, we just playing around, Miss Marie, and he basically drops the truck right next to his head to screw with him one last time. And he tosses the transport to Jesse. And Jesse says, he tells him, good luck with your girl. And then we get back to freaking purgatory again. But now this part was better. Like I wish they would have just done this part because it's more metaphorical. You know what I'm saying? And I kind of like that. But this is where this now death comes knocking on the door, and it takes the form of a Family Protective Services. At this point, like Grandma said, there's a limited time left before she actually goes to join the dead permanently. Yep. And Tulip's just about to ready to go do that. She's going to open the door and give away. And I'm really hoping that you have some insight on this, Steve, because I was a little bit confused. I mean, I get the whole part of this, but I want to see what you bring to it. So we see this Felix the Cat clock that's on the wall. And somehow this clock serves the purpose of being like a portal between life and purgatory. So she tells little Tulip that, they're going to be taken, and it's where they're going to go is no worse than where they already are. She's trying to reassure the little girl that everything's going to be okay. She starts to get up to leave and open up the door, but the girl's not moving, So Tulip turns around to see what's going on, and she notices that now there's all of her favorite things that Cass had brought are all strewn out over the... Strewn? Did I make a word up? They're all laid out. Yes. I think I made a word up. But they're all like laid out all over the table, and basically it's like blueberry, guns, ammo. There's a model of her car that she drives, beer, cigarettes, a gun, all the good stuff, Christmas time. So this is kind of like a back and forth, like it's cutting scene to scene. So we see her notice all of these things, and then we're seeing the living side of things. And Grandma's like working up this concoction, and as she's making it up, she's putting the ingredients together. Jesse's basically like calling it out. The concoction is magnesium, zinc, and then mercury. When he gets to mercury, Cassie's like, "Isn't that poison?" Grandma's like, "She's already dead." Good point, Grandma. And she
wonderful point.
But then they give her a little plug to a magic bullet, which I thought was pretty funny. She just mixes all, there's voodoo involved, but she's just mixing it all up with a magic bullet. But I guess, it gets things done. Hey. Ladies and gentlemen, go out and buy a magic bullet. They're wonderful for smoothies.
And voodoo.
And voodoo, for that matter. So either one, if you're into health or voodoo, magic bullet's your way to go.
Yes.
This has been a sponsorship by The Word, the Unofficial PREACHER Podcast.
Totally.
Send them checks. So... back in purgatory, Tulip has decided that she's going to stick around, maybe just have one more bowl of blueberry because it's wonderful stuff. And the struggle between life and death is now happening. You're hearing the knocks and the warnings to come out. They're getting louder and more aggressive. But then we cut back to Grandma. Now Grandma's pouring this mixture down Tulip's throat with this funnel. And this is where she asked Jesse for the transport. And the transport... I thought the transport at first was like the vial that they keep the souls in from season 2, but that's not the case at all. It wasn't a vial, but it's like this weird green liquid. And this is where but to me it gets confusing here, and this is why I'm hoping that you're going to help me out. So she gets this green liquid, and she draws it up with one of those little droppers, like a little tincture dropper, and puts it in Tulip's mouth. And then now we're back in purgatory again, and Tulip now pulls the vial of the transport out of her mouth. Like she was chewing blueberry, and then suddenly she just has that vial in her mouth. She pulls it out. We hear the last warnings that are coming from death now, or the Child Protective Services. And now the wait begins. So they're all sitting around watching Tulip's dead body, and they're waiting for her to come back. And Grandma explains that sometimes they don't because they just don't have enough reason to, and Jesse's not having that. So he starts talking to her. And Cassidy, to help out, puts on the Joni Mitchell record. Joni Mitchell pops up on the screen in purgatory. And now we hear Death trying to break down the door. Again, it just keeps getting more and more aggressive. Little Tulip looks up at her and tells her that she needs to go. And Tulip's like, "What about you?" And then the little girl speaks. And I'm pretty sure this is the same voice that was used by Miss Mannering that was in Hell. It sounds exactly like her. But she's basically just tells her, she's like, "I'm a reenactor and I work here." Okay, whatever.
You know what I realized, G?
What's that?
The transport is a battery.
Break this down for me, because let me get to this one part real quick.
Yes,
and then I'll
break it down.
Yes,
okay.
please, because I actually have no idea.
Because I like this. Remember, I told you this is the only part that I really liked from the purgatory.
Oh, okay. Well,
this
cool.
is why. Go ahead.
All right, cool. So, the phone starts ringing now, and she picks. This is in purgatory, by the way, and she picks
Mind
it
you,
up.
Cassidy was right about Joni Mitchell. Jesse was wrong. Cassidy was right.
Well, this is a love triangle. And you know that Cass is Cass is way into Tulip, and
way more than Jesse apparently.
I'm kind of thinking that it's like that way with Tulip too. I'm
about to call something, G. I'm about to call something.
Call it out.
Okay, I think Tulip's gonna fall in love with Cassidy, and Okay, dude, this is so far-fetched. I'm totally wrong, probably. Cassidy's going to ask for help, or maybe he won't, from Grandma to get a love potion.
Yes.
I
think so, too.
Tulip's going to fall in love with Cassidy.
Yep.
Then Jesse's going to be like, oh, you're only in love with him because of the love potion, and it's going to come out that she didn't take it. She just fell in love with Cassidy.
See, I was with you until that part. I'm not sure.
I think she's legit going to be like, I never took that potion, you idiot. Oh, and they're going to be like, oh, and Cassidy's even going to be like, what? So you just love me. That's what's going to happen, Doc.
You do love me, don't you, love? Yeah, I
think so. I think she's just not going to take the potion, and she's just legit going to fall in love with Cassidy.
Well, I guess that would make more sense, being that Grandma told the story that she actually had to, kill the person.
Exactly.
I don't think they're going to take Tulip out twice.
Nope. They're going to be like, oh, she just loves him. Or even Grandma's going to, just to stick it into Jesse, she's going to be like, I never gave him the real potion. Your girl just loves Cassidy. That's going to be awesome if she does that. But, again, it's so far-fetched. But, man, if Grandma was just like, I gave him a fake thing. She just loves your girl. Or your girl just loves your friend. Oh, man.
You might be onto something, dude. Seriously.
It's far-fetched, dude. But I just think it will be interesting if that little twist happens. Because Tulip's too smart. She's going to be like, I didn't take that stupid thing, you silly goose. I just love you.
Steve, you don't want to use that harsh language. There's kids listening.
I'm trying. I'm sorry. You're right. Anyway, you were saying you needed to get to something.
Well, yeah. So, like I said, the phone's ringing, and it's all starting to go down now. I think I'm saying this right. So, Tulip's saying, I need more time. She's not exactly sure she wants to go back yet. But then the transport appears behind the Felix clock. I'm trying to remember this correctly, but I'm pretty sure that's exactly right.
Here's what, okay. So, she says she needs more time, right?
Right.
Because she can't figure out how to get out. They said that the time is running. She's like, I can't figure it out. I need more time. And then the clock stops.
Battery. Never mind.
The battery needs to
understand.
put it back. Yeah. And then
Yes.
it starts. That's how she figured it out. She's like, oh, I had that battery. And the clock's, that's why she smiled. She's like, oh.
So hold on a second. I think I understand now. There's something that I was missing, but now it makes sense. So she wasn't pulling the transport out of her mouth. She was pulling a battery. Okay,
yes.
Got it. And
you
know
what?
what?
Like,
I'm sure.
what the crap is this? She didn't know what it was. She's like, what the heck is this? Then when she saw the clock stop, she was like, oh, wait. It needs a battery. And she kept on saying, I need more time. So when the time stopped, she's like, oh, you get more time by starting the clock again.
Dude, I don't know how I didn't catch that. I watched this several times. And, I don't know why I never saw a battery. I was fixated on the transport.
I was like, that is so clever. I liked that because I was like, that took a writing room of people be like, well, she says she needs more time. How do you get more time? Be like, you start the clock up again. That's just smart.
No, it really is. I just was not giving it any, I was giving it nothing near thought apparently, because it all makes sense now that you explain it to me. But I was just like, why is the transport? It makes complete sense now. So thank you very Steve Hudson, ladies and gentlemen. Let's give him applause.
Right. I appreciate it.
And probably everyone listening is like, yeah, dude, it was a fucking battery. Why didn't you get that? But for whatever reason, it just didn't.
No, I was looking at Ruth Nega I was looking at Tulip that's why you're just so brilliant, girl, because you figured that out, though. Oh, she's so bad.
She really is.
Oh, anyway. She's rivaling Gabby.
You think so?
Yes.
In my opinion, she surpasses her. I'm just letting you know. But that's just my opinion.
So bad. I mean, even the way she does Tulip, she's Tulip now.
Do you think she's as bad when she's not Tulip?
I've never seen her not Tulip.
So you might not have the same opinion then if you saw her.
Probably not, yeah. I like Tulip.
But that is a way, though, with people sometimes. They can just play a character and you sort of just fall in love with them.
Because she's a person that, if I'm like, oh, I forgot something in the movie theater. Could you wait out here for me? And then someone's like, someone just attacked your girl. And I'd be like, I feel sorry for them. That's what I like. I'll be like, oh, did they? Well, you might need to call the paramedics. Because that woman is a problem.
I completely get how you're into her as Tulip, though. Not to stray too far, but Karen Gillian, the actress Karen Gillian. who plays Nebula and in Infinity War and all that. She was also like the first time I saw her, she played a character called Amy Pond on Doctor Who.
Oh wow!
And I fell in love with her as Amy Pond. But I see her out like in Jumanji. She's a lovely woman. She's very pretty, but she never was quite Amy Pond status. So I kind of get that. Like I think Ruth just sort of found her niche with this one.
Wait, the woman in Jumanji is the Nebula in Avengers?
Yeah, and she's also Amy Pond.
Oh snap!
Karen Gillan.
That's crazy.
Scotland's
like
finest.
A young girl. I thought she was like a 20-year-old. It looked like in Jumanji.
I would say she's probably late 20s, maybe early 30s.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, then she's young. Okay,
she's young. She's a spring
okay.
chicken. All right, I'm sorry. Back to the breakdown.
Right. But yeah, that was really cool because, like they said, they're like if she didn't figure it out, it's game over. If she couldn't figure out because everyone I imagine has a different transport. Like, What is your clue? What's your clue you have? And if you don't figure it out, it's game over. And just like Grandma said, she's like, look, if she waits too long or she can't figure it out, she's stuck. It's done. But come on. Tulip's going to figure it out. Are you crazy? Are you crazy? Tulip's figuring that joint out.
It would make for poor television if she didn't too. Like, oh well, guess she's dead.
I would be interested if she didn't figure it out. I know she's coming back, but I'd even just be like, oh, they're going to do some dark stuff to bring her back. But she figured it out. And dude, it touched my heart when she heard that song that Joni Mitchell song. I was like, oh, Cassidy knows her. Because that broke her out of the train. Like, she was like, wait, what is that? Cassidy, man, I'm telling you, she's going to fall in love with Cassidy.
I think you might be right. So as Steve so eloquently just demonstrated that Dan wasn't paying attention. And so that's exactly what happens. The battery is the key to getting back to the living. Tulip puts the battery into Felix the cat, and suddenly she's back. And she's standing in the middle of what looks like an Angry Orchard label. You know what I mean? It really does look like that to me. That's the first thing I thought. She's standing in this beautiful orchard, this long road. And this is where it gets a little bit weird, but it brings back a callback. So she's running down the road. And she turns back because something catches her attention. And she turns around, and who does she see? But she sees God Dog standing there. I'm going to call him God Dog.
Hated that.
Yeah, like I was really hoping that, I hope that we're not going to see that suit the whole time. But
it creeps me out. That's why I hate it.
Oh, really? I don't
like
know.
that.
I want to see God. You know what I mean? I really want to do it. And I'm kind of over the dog suit. But I'm willing to work with this, folks. I'm not going to let that deter me from loving the show.
I remember a long time ago, there was actually a guy who knew that was God. I forgot who that was, though.
The kid. That's who it was.
Oh,
what? I'm just trying to tell you. I'm just trying to let you know. So Tulip basically approaches him and asks if he was the one that brought her back. And he's like, no, there was another. And we know who she's talking about now because we just watched the whole scene. Yes. But he explains how he's counting on her. He needs her now to do something for her. And it doesn't really get too, descriptive because he basically tells her, you need to get, and then it stops. And this is where she wakes up. She really wakes up this time. And she immediately turns to Cassidy, what do you know? And she gives him this really long stare, a very loving stare. So there's definitely this love thing going on with her. I agree with you 100%. That stare, you don't get I wish people would look at me like that. You know what I'm saying? That's definitely the love stare. I'm just saying.
For me, I just get sick of people looking at me. I'm like, okay, already, I get it. But go on.
So, they're all thrilled.
Yes.
And that she's back. But she also looks up at Grandma and is like, who the hell are you? Grandma takes off. And then the next scene, we're already pretty much done with this episode. It went by pretty quick. But the next scene, we see Jesse and he's standing over Tulip watching her sleep. And the camera pans over and Cass is in the same bed too. So things are going to get very hairy.
He loves her, dude.
He loves the shit out of this woman.
Legitimately. Now, what I will say is he loves her now. Cassidy loves her right now. But as we know, for all you fans of the comic book, it takes 0 minus to get Cassidy out of that frame of mind. All it takes is a change of the weather. And Cassidy will fall out of love with somebody.
Well, Cassidy's trained to do so. I mean, he's been around for 119 years or something like that. So he's had to part ways with a lot of people over the span of his afterlife.
As she ages and he doesn't, things change. But I don't even think it's going to last that long. I believe that he loves her. There's no question that he loves her. But he's loved. We're only witnessing this love. If we had been going around with Cassidy, we would have seen this how many times? Then again, there aren't many tulips. I have to keep that in mind too. You don't run into a tulip all the time.
I still hope that somehow, because I got to have my comic hopes. I mean, that's
Yes.
what we've done every year. And I really hope that somehow they do bring that whole, without giving any spoilers away, where they're spending time apart and Jesse's on his own for a bit. And what transpires while Jesse's on his own for a little bit. I really hope they come back to that because it just
That'd
makes
be
for
great.
a great story,
That would be really, really good. And I'd like it to be reversed, where instead of it going one way where a person is sucking someone dry, it's a different thing where it's just like, oh, this person actually sucks people dry. That's what I'd want to see, because that's, so far, I think it's good that they've been kind of going away and be like, okay, let's mess with this timeline, or let's mess with this a little bit. They could do it because Tulip is a lot, G. She's a lot. You know
No
what
doubt.
I'm saying?
Oh, no doubt.
She is a lot. And so I'd really want them to work with that. And she's not the same Tulip in that comic. This Tulip is not going to be that person separated. It's just not her.
She's just way more, like, she's a stronger personality, first of all.
Totally. I could imagine if something happened where Cassidy and her end up connecting on a deeper level, Cassidy runs to Jesse to be like, how do you do this? Like, what's the secret? Jesse would have to give him tips because she's a lot. She's not going to be head over heels for Cassidy like all those other Herbs were. She's different. You know what I'm saying? So,
Oh, totally. But the more that we watch this, I got to be honest with you, I'm really liking the arc that they're doing with Tulip, as far as not necessarily the arc, but the character building that they're doing with her.
Totally.
They've made her so, I hate to say it, but they've made her way more strong than the comic character.
Totally.
Tulip in the comic was almost a bit of a damsel in distress, even though
Yes.
she could handle herself sometimes. But there were times where she just absolutely couldn't, and she hit rock bottom. I don't know if I see Tulip doing that, but I do like that they've made her a stronger character, and I think that's just a more modernized thing too. I think we've mentioned this before, but I mean, it's 2018. You know what I mean? They have to make strong.
Well, golly gee, what am I to do without you? You can't do that anymore.
Exactly.
She's perfectly fine. So yeah. So that was really cool too.
It really does make sense, man. It makes sense why they're doing that.
Of course, and I love seeing her. I mean, my heart was warm seeing her and Cassidy together. Where Cassidy, it wasn't a sexual thing. Cassidy just loves this woman. And it touched my heart.
I'll say this, that through the span of the series, we've had a few moments where her and Jesse are expressing love for each other in a real deep way. But I mean, I haven't taken count, but I would have to think that, just off the top of my head, that we've seen more of that from Tulip and Cassidy than we have from Jesse, you know what I mean? And Tulip. So who knows, man? But the way that this is going right now, shit's going to go down because there's so much animosity and love that's going on right there, and I don't think any of them really know what to do with it just yet because they've got bigger problems to deal with right now.
And I'm going to call one more thing, and I'm going to say that the time that Cassidy does vamp out, it's going to be because someone's messing with Tulip.
Oh, 100%.
That's going to make him actually be like, oh, this guy is a dangerous being.
That's a really good point, dude. I think
you're
you're right on the money.
That's what's going to make him vamp out, because that's his heart, man. Tulip is his heart. And if someone slaps her, say Jody slaps Tulip, game over. It may be a fight, but it will be a fight for a good minute and a half until, Cassidy's just like, okay, this is over. I'm done with you, G. I can lift cars too.
I could lift cars too. I think that might come down the road, man. If they're going to do that, it's obviously going to have to come down the road for a little bit because, like I said in the last episode, I think that there's going to be some teaming up somehow, one way, shape, or form. We're going to have you could tell from the trailer that Cass and TC have sort of taken a liking to each other. You can also tell that there was a wanted poster and it had Tulip, TC, and Jody on it, so they're gonna do something together.
Yeah.
So they have more story to go before this happens. But when it all comes to a head, that's very possible, or that would be a very good ending.
And I'm assuming, you know what? I can't say that about Jody because I'm assuming, if Jody somehow figures out that something's up with, no matter, even if he doesn't know what he is, if he figures out, oh my gosh, Cassidy's stronger than I thought, he's gonna fight him differently. So that also has something to do with it. But yeah, Jody's not going to just run into a fight he just can't win. But Jody's also the guy that thinks he could win every fight. So maybe he will. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, maybe they're setting up this whole superhuman thing for this ultimate battle that's going to go down with him and Cass.
Yes.
I don't know. It's
totally
great.
get it.
Hey, man, if you're writing the show, I would be down with it, you know?
Yeah. Oh, no, because Jody's the type that if he sees a werewolf, he's not immediately, he's not running. He's not like, oh, crap, I've never seen this. He'll be running forward thinking, oh, I've never seen one of these. I wonder how it dies.
What you've just experienced, ladies and gentlemen, is a Steve Hudson werewolfism. They come
Totally.
up often. If you haven't,
Yes.
if you're new to the show, it doesn't matter if there's a werewolf involved. He will talk werewolves. I'm just letting you know right now.
Oh, totally. And I will talk any, like a human being with a dog or with a head of a, that's why that dog god didn't, I was like, I don't like this. It's like a human with an animal head. That junk is just not natural.
Out of curiosity, do you like dogs?
I love dogs.
You do love dogs. They don't freak you out or anything like that.
No.
What about like a German Shepherd or more of like a wolf-like dog?
I love those too.
It's just
Love
when you
wolves.
it's when you mix. You love wolves, you love
Yes.
dogs, but you don't like human wolves or human dogs.
Bingo.
Understood. Hey, we all have our thing.
Yes. And oddly enough, I think I like dogs more than humans. So
I think that's kind of a given. I don't. Humans don't deserve dogs. You know what I mean?
we really don't. We really don't.
Getting back to it though, guys. Guess what? We're like done. I can't believe
Yes.
it. It's like snuck up on us. We're already at the last scene. Let's talk about that for just a second. So the very last scene, like I said, we see Tulip is being watched and cast as well by Jesse. He goes down, sits down for a drink, and this is when Grandma comes in to talk to him. She pours herself a drink, and she basically tells him, "You're welcome. You know, now we have a deal, right?" And Jesse's like, "Yes." And he pauses for a second. He's like, "Or I could cheat, change my mind, and kill you." You know, he's like, I think he says something like, "I could push you over, and there's nothing you could do about it." And this is where Grandma nuts up on him a little bit, and basically just tells him like, "Yeah, you could, but I dare you to try and see what happens." She tells him that, see what happens. She's ready to give as much as she gets.
Of
You know,
course. We don't know what else she put in that concoction.
right?
We don't know what she could call back.
We have no idea why she's got this power over him in the first place.
Exactly.
So Grandma's not having it. I want to talk a little bit before we go. I want to talk about what you think of Betty Buckley's performance as Grandma so far, but because it is very different. But I think that this is it could go so many different ways, you know. And but to me, it just seems like she's a really strong character, and I'm
Yes.
really hoping that they flesh that out as to all of the shit that she had done to him when he was a kid. Why she's able to keep him so complacent.
Yes, I agree. I think, mind you, I loved her. I loved Buckley as the grandmother. But, you know, I would have, in a dream world, I would have loved to see Martindale's version.
I got you, man. I'm
I
sorry
don't
it didn't
know why
happen.
she's in her. I don't know why she's in my brain, but I just think that she has that thing where I'm like, oh, I believe that she's just this person. You know what I'm saying? So,
Totally.
But I love this. I'll tell you right now, I love Grandma. I think she's they picked another good person. She did pick, you know, and I was convinced that she's a person that is not only evil, but is actually legitimately looking out for, I don't know if it's her legacy or what legacy she's protecting, but she has an end game, and I just don't know what the end game is other than living forever.
Yeah, that's the only thing I can think of right now is living forever, but there's clearly more to it. And
Yes.
I think that this is just the tip of the iceberg with her. We're going to see so much. I'm hoping from Grandma. I'm hoping Betty Buckley just kills it on this one. We didn't get much Grail on this one, and that's did we get any? We didn't get any
No,
Grail on this
none.
one.
Yeah.
But we know that's coming too. We've seen it
No
in the
Saint.
trailer. No Saint as of yet, and I'm willing to take my time with this. This is merely episode 1. It's
Yes.
also episode 1 in the can because we just bagged this one. We're done
Yep.
with this one, guys. I'm hoping you like the breakdown. It's been a long time since I've done one of these, so you know they're only going to get better. But guys, thank you for listening. You know, we're back. I'm happy to say we're back, man. It's a whole other season. We got 9 more episodes to rock this shit, and I'm glad that you guys are listening. So welcome back to the Word. This is about the point where I'm going to go ahead and give you guys some contact info, and then we're going to call it a day. But I do want to say one thing real quick. For those of you that are listening to the show and you listen to us on a regular, you might hear me a little bit slurry on the next episode. I'm just being honest with you. 2 days from now, I'm getting ready to have some shoulder surgery. And depending on what happens, I might be on the pain meds. So it might be make for an entertaining show or a slurry one. I don't know yet. But without fail, we'll be back to do this every week. Every time there's an episode, we will not miss it. I guarantee it. All right?
Yeah.
Steve, may I do the contact info?
Hell it.
Ladies and gentlemen, you want to get a hold of the show? Thanks again, by the way. Thanks for listening to The Word. If you want to get a hold of us, please email us at askthewordpodcast@gmail.com. On Twitter, we are there too, and you can hit us up at @word_podcast. You can reach myself, Dan, at DanQPublic, Mr. Steve at S.E_Hudson Music. And you can subscribe to the show. You can hit us up on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, Spotify, whatever you want, simply by going to one site, and that's www.heroesofnoise.com. Listen to our other podcast there. It's called Heroes of Noise. It's where we do a pop culture show, and we do it weekly. Maybe not next week because, again, I'm having surgery, but right now my priority is on the Word for you good people because we have a series to get through. I can't thank you guys enough for coming back and listening to us here. We look forward to hearing your comments on this episode. What do you guys think? You guys like Grandma? Do you dig TC? Jody? How's the cast doing? Are you cool with the way the whole dynamic of the trio is working out? What do you want to see from the show? What do you not want to see? Are you happy with the way God turned out? Let's talk about it. That's it for me, guys. Steve, what do you got to say?
Ladies and gentlemen, we are back on the motorcycle. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just excited. I can't wait. We have a few more episodes to do. Like what, 10 more?
I think we have 9 more. Yeah, 9.
So I'm going to be in your ear holes for a little while longer, and so will Dan Q Public. Thank you for coming back. I love you so much. Can't wait to see you next week. Dan, I hope you feel better after your surgery.
Thank you, sir.
This is the last you're going to hear my voice until Dan gives you that wonderful, awesome, amazing talent that was bestowed upon him from something hitting him in the front of a church. Holla.
Ever since that fateful night. Guys, again, thank you for listening. I know I'm really ecstatic. I've been talking about this all week, and I'm really glad to be back. And I just can't wait to hear from you good people. So, as always, my name is Dan Ramirez. I'm calling out Mr. Steve Hudson as the host of this show. Thank you for listening
to the Word.